Hey everybody, I am in Cades Cove today, and you are with Graveyard Ghosts. I'm at one of the primitive churches, and this church also has a graveyard. This will give you a better idea of the church that I'm outside right now. Let's go ahead and take a look inside while nobody's here. Believe it or not, the loop is backed up for a 3 to 4 hour drive today. These particular areas in Cades Cove with the church and the graveyard, usually your activity starts to happen in the nighttime. Now, there are some full-figured ghost apparitions that do appear within this particular church's graveyard at night, and many times are seen by various different people. We're going to head outside now and go up into the cemetery. They do have it chained off where you can't walk inside. Many of the markers are very old, as Cades Cove was originally established in the 1700s. And then getting toward the 1800s, that's when families started to build cabins and move in and live in this particular area here. Now, I do have my mail meter with me. I will go ahead and turn it on just so I can see if there's any activity out here in the graveyard for your enjoyment, pleasure. Okay, the millimeter is on, and I'm going to hold it here to show you. It's got some activity going on already. Again, my millimeter goes up to 6 lights. The more lights, the more activity, which means usually energy for more of the spirits. There's a temperature drop. There's a higher temperature drop as we're getting close to some of the old ones. These are from the early 1900s. Again, we do have coins showing on the grave markers here. Usually that's a sign of military, so I think people are just putting them there, maybe not knowing that's usually what that's meant. And sometimes the pennies are a sign that you did visit a grave. Sometimes people will leave a stone on the grave markers also. It's said that a stone on the marker is a longer remembrance than if you use flowers. This one here is almost above ground. It simply says mother and father. You can see in the background the fields. So far, I've spotted 2 baby cubs in one of the trees. There are some temperature drops up here on the hill. Those, I believe, are probably from a wind breeze that just come through, though the one we're hearing now is more or less because it does feel cooler, like air conditioning. I'm going to go ahead and turn the mail meter off because at the top of the hill here, it is very windy. Also, it's making a lot of noise. Just to let you know, the reason why is because I'm touching it. A lot of times people will tell you, wow, there's a lot of activity here. Not necessarily so, it's because you're touching it. So just always remember that. Let's take a look over. There's the back side of the church. And again, members of the church and their stones. I'm going to switch you over to this side. Interesting, there's a stone all by itself way down at the end. And there's a brand new stone up here at the top. I'm guessing there's a lot of unmarked graves here because the stone down at the bottom there is very old. There's a few more up here that are similar, two together and very old. In the back, as we remember from our other ventures, as we've been in the Smokies, that there's a lot of stones. Stones just to show remembrance that somebody is buried in that particular one. This one you can take a look at and almost see where it's sunk into the ground. Jack Shields. His name is almost buried now in the dirt. This one's odd as it almost looks fresh. Has a dirt mound next to it. And for some reason, a pipe, which I can't get far enough. It looks like it's just full of water. Here's one out in the stepway. Little one. Has some initials on it. It's on the walkway all by itself. Another one next to it. And then two older ones just all by their lonesome next to each other. There's that single one back there. Here's the other two up here. And again, I'll show you the field in the background. Sometimes there'll be elk in the fields here. When you first come into the trail area, there are usually horses. And sometimes when you're in the wooded area, you'll see a deer or two. And of course, wild turkeys, as you can find anywhere in the Smokies. And what's odd is usually a lot of the bear sightings will be in the open fields like this, in the pastures, and they'll be in the very, very back out in the open by a tree. Again, up here is another unusual. They're faded, you can't see. No, they're all different, but I'll show you. There's one, two, three. Three children, all infants, all buried in a row. Not related, all different family names. Again, a lonesome stone by itself in the back. And more empty space over on this side, which again I'm assuming are a lot of unmarked graves. Now this one, there is a tremendous amount of coins on it. This one is, I am assuming, military. Yes, it is. It says that he was a corporal in the U.S. Army, and also there is a flag memorializing his tombstone. Now again, with the pennies, the nickels, the dimes, and the quarters, each one has a very different meaning. A penny means the grave was visited. As far as your nickels, dimes, and quarters, they mean that you served with the person in the military, you died with them in the military, and so on and so forth. So a lot of remembrance for this particular person. And usually what happens is the sexton or the graveyard custodian will collect the coins after a certain period, and then they will use that to keep the cemetery mowed and the lawn maintenance, and they'll take care of the cemetery with the change that they find. And again, we're on the back side of the church, coming up to the end of it. And the front here is where a lot of the older markers are. And again, just stone markers. Well, everyone, that concludes this brief tour of one of the churches here in Cades Cove today. I hope you've enjoyed our little adventure. Again, this is Graveyard Ghosts, and I thank you for joining me and look forward to the next one. Thanks. Goodbye.